So I can't believe I did this, but I sold my precious Sony FX3 for this little tiny camera. And this is the Sony ZV-E1, ZV-E1, very confusing. And right now I'm filming with the Sony ZV-E1, which is a 1-inch sensor camera. So why did I sell my Sony FX3, which I loved? Well, just to give you some background, I come from the Panasonic world. I went to the Sony A7C. I liked it, but it was very limited. It had a really slow processor, so it couldn't do things like see myself on the screen and have eye tracking enabled, for example. It had crops and stuff like that, but the picture quality was amazing. Then I moved to the FX30, and then I lost my full frame look. I was really upset about that. You know, I wanted a zoom lens that had an f2.8 kind of depth of field, and yes, you can get that type of look on an APS-C sensor, but you need to use prime lenses, and I don't know. I don't like prime lenses because if you do your clear image zoom, you kind of lose a bunch of features and it really sucks. Interestingly, with this camera, you obviously get the digital zoom with all the features. So maybe I will go back to a fixed lens to make it ultra compact. I actually did buy the Sony 24 f2.8, which is a pancake lens, which I'm really looking forward to if it ever gets shipped. So yeah, I'm really gonna miss my Sony FX3. I think it was a great camera. However, for my use cases, and this is what it's all about. It's all about your specific use cases. What are you using the camera for? And in my case, I'm just creating YouTube videos in a controlled environment, indoor environment, although it does get pretty hot here, anywhere from 22 to 24 Celsius, which I'm a little bit concerned about the overheating in this little tiny guy because it's trying to do a lot. It's got an AI processor, it's got advanced autofocusing. Let's say you have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi enabled and it's trying to process the image. You know, who knows how well this thing can actually withstand the temperature. So I'm gonna run it through the main use case, which is I wanna speak to it for more than 30 minutes. I wanna talk to the camera and not be worried about it overheating in, let's say, an hour for 24p content. So let's unbox it and show you my first impression. I'll also explain why I sold my FX3 a little bit later. All right. The strap that I never care for, never use it, and the actual camera. What else? What other goodies do we get in here? What is this? Everything is nice packaging, eco-friendly for the environment so that, you know, the millennials and Gen Z are very happy. Okay, we got the windshield, never use that. The Z battery, which is also very important. Can't use fake ones because you might overheat your battery. And that's it. We don't get a charger unlike the FX3 or any top handle or anything like that. So I just want to say I did buy my FX3 about maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and I was really upset when Sony released this camera, the EV1, because this was probably my dream camera. I really wanted a camera that shot 4K 60 with no crop and it was full frame and still small and compact. The thing with the FX3 was that it was really big and they had a lot of pro features like DCI 4K, a fan. Well, okay, I would personally like to have a fan, but you get the point. I don't shoot weddings, I don't shoot outdoors in hot environments, so I don't need that much dependability, but I at least need to be able to record myself for an hour talking to the camera, HDMI out with Wi-Fi on, with the content creator app so that I can frame myself and all that stuff. So everything needs to work for at least an hour, and I don't need 4K 60 for an hour. Like, I just do short B-roll shots. This is all indoors, so I didn't need maybe like an overkill fan, so that was one of the reasons. It was very heavy. It also lacked a lot of features, like for example the AI features I could really benefit from because I'm a solo content creator, and which means like I don't have someone film me, so being able to frame myself or like get product showcase mode like this, like to me that is really important. These are actually features that I would benefit from because I'm a solo content creator, so these are obviously targeted to people like me. So wow, all right, here it is, nice and light. Well, the battery's not inside, so let's plop that in. Another thing I didn't really care for the Sony FX3 was a dual SD card. Now, God forbid I lose my footage during a shoot, but it's not the end of the world. It's not like I'm filming once in a lifetime opportunities, like someone's getting married and I lost all their footage and they charged me like, I charged them like $10,000 to film a video. Obviously I wouldn't need dual SD card slots, but I don't ever see myself becoming a wedding filmmaker or a commercial person that films stuff. Now, one thing I might miss is all the buttons and dials. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be missing all the buttons and dials and stuff like that, but strangely enough, with the Sony FX3, I didn't like the button layout. I know I can customize it all I want, but being able to control the ISO and like every button, there was a dedicated button for like ISO, shutter and all that stuff, and like you could lock it in and stuff like that. It was really annoying. I actually kind of like my Sony A7C where I just had a very simple interface. Now, one thing I am gonna miss is the top button, the button on the side over here where you could press something. That was on the Sony FX3. That's something I'm definitely gonna miss, but maybe if I buy like a G lens, it will have a button on the side of the lens so I can press it in an autofocus automatic switch. So kind of buying those G lens, like those pancake lens like I alluded to earlier, might be actually beneficial because you add more functionality, not just a lens that is really compact and light, but autofocus switch, aperture control. You can maybe repurpose the buttons on this side and use the ones on your actual lens. You know, might be a really cool idea. Now the thing with this lens is that it's a little bit still too big. I really like this 20-40 f2.8 by Tamron. It's a really good value. It's really inexpensive right now. It has really come down in price. In Canada, it's only like 850 bucks, which in US terms is like what, 600 USD. And I paid a lot more on it when it launched, and they ripped me off and all that stuff. So don't buy stuff at launch like this camera over here. This is only a 2-month-old camera. Now a lot of people are saying that they put fans here, or they just throw like a little fan near the as you shoot, but that would be really upsetting. Like I don't want to have to spend, this is still an expensive camera, and I don't want to have to like rig this out, and every time I want to shoot for a long time, which I don't know how long I'll be talking, I don't want to have to like do an extra step. That would be really annoying, and it kind of defeats the purpose of spending so much for this camera. But if it works out for my use case, this will be my dream camera because it has pretty much everything I want, plus more than the FX3. Now, one of the key features that I really wanted was the ability to do USB-C streaming. And what really annoyed me about the FX3 was that it was so gimped, and they didn't have any USB streaming. I think it was like 1080p, or not even that, 720p. You had to use a custom app. Apparently, what you can do is you can set this in USB streaming mode so that you don't have to like fiddle through a bunch of settings and like change it back to USB setting. You can just plug it in. Your computer will automatically detect it, which is amazing. That's something that you couldn't do on the previous camera. So they've done a lot of software upgrades. And yeah, the dynamic active stabilization, I think, again, I don't have to use my gimbal, my Crane M3. I can just shoot like right away. I can be really quick, and I can travel with this. There's just so many benefits, like lighter, compact. Now, one thing I am gonna miss with the FX3 is that it had a cage built in, and I use these little 2 Falcon plates. Let me show you. So I use these little 2 Falcon plates, like F22, and you could just click it on, it just locks into place. And the 2 side 1/4-inch screws on the FX3 or FX30, which I also had, basically get your own cage, because it has a big grip. It's really nice and big and all that stuff. And what you could do is with this thing here is that it had a really nice cold shoe lock, so you could put a heavy light on it, and you had a handle. I didn't really use the handle that much. I used it more for being able to have, let's say, a Sony shotgun mic. So what I like to do is, and I hate wires. I don't want any wires or anything like that, anything to get caught and have to manually set the gain. This is all auto gain. This Sony mic, which I did a full review on. Right now I'm actually using the ECMB WBT mic, which is also strapped onto the Sony ZV-E1. Anyways, being able to just plop this on, and also having the ability to strap on a Falcon F22 plate and then clip on different accessories, so I could have a light and a microphone at the same time. That's something that I'm really gonna miss with switching to this camera. And I don't want to have to go out and buy a small rig cage, because that's going to add another 150 grams, and then it might block this. Like, I know that they have it such that it's built kind of around here, like you could attach this, but it might basically interfere with the microphone, and then it kind of defeats the purpose of having it. And then plus I want to put my plate down here. I have an Arca Swiss plate plus the Falcon F38 plate. It's just a mess. I really don't want to have to use, so I'm going to try and not mount anything on this. I'm just going to keep it as is like this. So that's one thing I'm really going to miss with the FX3 is the kind of having like a free cage that came with it. All right, so here it is, the full frame glory sensor. Amazing. So let's plop in this. Now I can't wait for my little pancake lens to come in, but this will have to do for now. I intend not to use this. I'm gonna buy another camera, maybe a Sony a7 II whenever it comes out. All right, see, that feels really lopsided. I mean, it's a nice compact, but it's still too heavy, right? So the reason why weight is such a big deal for me is that I like to travel a lot. I have to go between 2 places all the time, and I really don't want to have to carry this stuff. It's just, I don't know why. It's just weight, for some reason, like, weights really bother me. But the key thing why I don't like heavy stuff is that I really want to mount stuff overhead, and I don't have the best gear to mount stuff overhead. Maybe I should invest in better gear, but being able to like quickly grab your camera, maybe mount it on like a little tripod, something really small, and just do that serendipitous filming, that random filming, I really like that, and that's the aspect of filming I enjoy the most. I'm not going to go out and buy a Sony G Master 35 1.4. I just don't care for that, but I still want an f2.8 on a full frame, which is equivalent to like a APS-C of 2.0, I think, or something like that. I still want some depth of field, some blur, some blurry background to give it more of a polished look. I have to say, this looks very sleek. It looks very nice. Like, look at that. All right, so another thing I want to test is how good is the digital zoom? Can you get by just using one, let's say, a wide angle lens at 24 millimeters, and then use the digital zoom to get 1.5x zoom without major loss of quality? That will effectively mean that you have 2 prime lenses on your kit. You have a 24 and a 35. And I really want to see how much of a degradation in quality is. Is it noticeable? Or can I just ditch these zoom lenses and just go with 1 prime? Because really 24 and 35 is all I really need in an indoor environment if I'm doing product B-roll. Like if you're doing stuff like I am, not doing like crazy telephoto or like crazy ultra wide, I think that would be ideal, is to have a super small compact camera that I can just don't have to worry about, I can zoom in a little bit, but still not have all my features lost. Like that's one of the main reasons why I bought this was the digital zoom is supposed to like maintain the quality, but also not gimp all the other features like eye autofocus and stuff like that. All right, let's turn it on for the first time. I wonder what the battery charge is. It's not even turning on. Well, I guess I have to charge it. Damn it. Damn it. Yeah, it does feel very cheap. Like the buttons, like very plasticky and everything. Not as nice as the FX3, but I actually prefer the look of this. It's more sleek and more subdued. I much prefer the FX3 or FX30 was a little bit too kind of bluish tone, and yeah, I don't know. All right, so let's do a test. I'm gonna hook this up to my computer. We're gonna do a USB-C and HDMI streaming. I also want to be in the frame, so I'm just gonna be recording myself because a lot of people do these tests where they just point it at a wall, but what happens when there's like a moving subject or it needs to maintain eye autofocus and like it needs to run these algorithms, right? So like we need to test that. Another thing that we need to test that a lot of YouTubers don't talk about is what happens when you have the USB-C charging the device and you're recording at the same time, because as you charge something, it does produce extra heat. And I hate how a lot of these reviewers don't do that. They just do like the battery test where, you know, that's like the optimal case. Like what happens if you have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, it's connected to your tablet or your phone so that you can frame yourself and you have a charge and you're talking for an hour. Like those are the test cases that no one, I could not find any information on it. A lot of people glossed it over. So I'm really gonna try it out and share with you guys.
All right, so this was a long-winded video, but I did all the tests and I have to say, unfortunately, the Sony ZV-E1, I'm gonna conclude, is just a fun, fancy toy. You cannot definitely use this in any commercial setting. If you're trying to film for more than 1 hour, even at 4K 24 frames per second, I highly do not recommend this camera. So I'm gonna make some separate videos that cover the clear image zoom test, which, you know, can we replace a zoom lens? I'm also going to compare the microphone in another detailed video, and then I'm going to talk about all my heating tests. But the TLDR is that if you have this charging to a USB-C battery brick, let's say you want to run this for a long time, and then you also have the monitoring. So for example, you're going to monitor using the content creator app, the smartphone app, just so that you can frame yourself and make sure like shots are, you know, well framed and all that stuff, because, you know, this is for solo content creators, aka vloggers, and it will not last more than 30 minutes. And this was in a 24 Celsius room. So just the TLDR, I highly do not recommend this camera if you're going to be using it for that case. Now, if you're okay not charging the camera, I think you can get by. But honestly, this camera has given me a lot of anxiety, and maybe I do kind of regret my FX3. So this is a little bit of a sad outcome. I do still like the camera. I have no choice but to keep it. I'm not going to go out and, you know, buy another camera again and lose even more money. But I'm going to make dedicated videos for all the topics that I had mentioned in my kind of first impressions video. So definitely subscribe to this channel. And if you have any questions, please give a question in the comment section. See you in the next video.